Welcome to our TR7 Application Security Platform Frequently Asked Questions video series. In this video, I will demonstrate how to install the virtual TR7 image on Proxmox. By default, TR7 virtual images come with 10 cores, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and 202 gigabytes of disk space. Core and RAM values can be increased via the virtualization platform, and disk space can be adjusted after installation through the TR7 web management interface, depending on the need. There are no limitations on the number of network interfaces, cores, or memory for virtual TR7 devices, but they are constrained by the system's TR7 license. In the Proxmox interface, click Create VM. Configure the VM that will load the TR7 QCOW2 image according to the on-screen steps. Finally, click Finish to create the VM. For cluster setup, create two separate VMs. Next, the QCOW2 file provided by the TR7 support team must be uploaded to the desired directory on the Proxmox server using SCP or similar tools. You must identify and correctly input the VM ID created for TR7, the Proxmox storage name, and the directory path of the TR7 QCOW2 file. Connect to the Proxmox server via SSH and run the qm import disk command to start the import process. For cluster setups, run the qm import disk command for both VMs separately. Once the import completes successfully, open the hardware screen of the TR7 VM in Proxmox. Change the imported disk to virt.io block. Add new network devices based on the network and requirements where the TR7 will be located. Open the options screen and set the boot order. Then click Start to boot the VM. At the login screen, enter the username setup and the password TR7 setup. Follow the steps for language selection, network interfaces, configuration. This will list the network interfaces added during installation. Configure the names and usages of the interfaces. Name the first interface MGMT and set the interface usage to management interface. For cluster configuration, assign the sync interface. Set the interface usage to sync. Interfaces designated as sync must be assigned to an empty vSwitch on Proxmox without an uplink connection, ensuring that synchronization between the two TR7 devices happens over a closed network. The remaining interfaces can be named as desired. The interface names and usages will be displayed on the screen as per the actions taken. By selecting Rescan Hardware, the defined and configured interfaces are activated. Return to the Management menu and select Restart Management to activate the configuration service. To access the TR7 interface, assign an IP address to the MGMT interface and restart the configuration service. Finally, reboot the TR7 virtual device. You can access the TR7 web management interface by making a request to the assigned IP address on port 80 or 443 of the MGMT network interface. And log in using the credentials admin/admin. For license activation, if the installation is performed in an offline environment, navigate to Settings, General Settings, License, and send the device ID to the TR7 support team. Then follow Settings, General Settings, Update to enter the update server address. The license ID and license key sent by the TR7 support team can be entered by clicking the Update License Manually button to complete the activation. If license activation is to be done online, follow Settings, General Settings, Device DNS to define the DNS. Then proceed to Settings, General Settings, Update to enter the update server address. Finally, go to Settings, General Settings, License to send the device ID to the TR7 support team. Once the license has been defined by the TR7 support team, click Download License to complete the activation. If the installation is configured as a cluster, the same steps should be applied to the other TR7 device. To configure the cluster, follow Settings, Device Management, Cluster on both TR7 devices. Define Cluster ID 1 for the master device and Cluster ID 2 for the slave device. On the master device, navigate to Network Interfaces to open the edit screen for the MGMT IP address and enter the MGMT IP address of the slave TR7 device in the second column. Next, go to Settings, Device Management, Local Services to restart the configuration services on both devices. Finally, click the Sync button on the cluster screen to complete the cluster configuration. Thank you for watching, and see you in our other videos.